Hey everybody, this is Cory here with ShatterPause.com, checking out this sweet Living End deck list with one of the old captains of the Living End ship back from the days of Extended, Mr. Rashad Miller. How you doing, Mr. Rashad Miller?
I'm doing great, Cory. How about yourself?
I am doing so good. I am just super excited to have you here on the show to give your feedback on Living End and how I run it and how the deck is actually stacking up against other modern decks in the kind of modern metagame. Cool. So let's talk a little bit about Fairy Macabre and mainboard. You were saying something earlier about it being amazing against Dredge back in the day.
Yeah, back in the day, the big boogeyman was Dredge, and everyone had, from ley lines to that Ravenous Traps, anything you could do to beat a Dredge deck. And I had 3 of these in my Living End sideboard, mostly for that deck. And it's nice to have that synergy of being able to get a 2/2 for your troubles after, you get rid of a key component out of someone's graveyard. But with Modern the way that it is, and with Birthing Pod being a real thing, this is a great include for the main deck.
Of course. So as people probably are aware of it, when they try to recur their creatures with -1/-1 counters on them, you can take the ability on the stack and just remove the creature right from the graveyard in the middle of their combo, which stops their infinite life / infinite damage combo. And also kind of has the second side of effect of taking away Snapcaster, flashback targets, and things like that. It also helps you remove the 1 or 2 awkward creatures that players will try to put in the graveyard, like Affinity will try to put the Ravager in the graveyard. You can nail that one on the way back in. So I put two side and 2 main, and I guess there's an argument for playing none main and like 4 ley lines in the side. That's kind of like the ham-fisted solution to beat like Storm and things like that. But I prefer just the kind of the classy elegance of Fairy Macabre's mainboard.
You know what? Sometimes you end up playing a 2/2 for 3 mana and just attacking for 2 in the air, as this deck can get kind of it can go old school and play a bunch of dorky 4/4s and 3/4s and pumping with Keswick Wolf Run, and having a 2/2 flyer with a Keswick Wolf Run is pretty good too.
It is extremely good, and I've recently actually smacked somebody in the face for 9 with the Keswick Wolf Run Fairy Macabre, so it is not to be underestimated. This game plays a very excellent game of Limited after it tries to combo a couple times. So against like a lot of control decks, you'll end up trying to combo on turn 3, counterspell, combo on turn 4, counterspell, and then okay, well turn 5, here's a 4/4. What do you do with a 4/4?
There's not a lot of good ways to get rid of 4/4s. 4 toughness is the magic number.
Exactly.
There's lightning bolts all over the place.
That's right. So every creature that's used as like a beat engine in this deck is over 3 power or 3 toughness for that specific reason, the lightning bolt. So you see Jungle Weaver here with a beefy 6 toughness, Street Wraith, Monstrous Carabid, Deadshot Minotaur all of 4, Pale Recluse has 5. Then the utility creatures are meant to die anyway. So something like Fulminator Mage, which is really sort of the second backbone of this deck, is just a powerhouse.
Yeah, I remember that being one of your major tools against the control decks. Back in Extended, a lot of the control decks were mostly blue-based, like 5-color blue decks or Mystical Teachings, and just being able to play a Fulminator Mage both threatened their life total and their mana base, because a lot of those mana bases were kind of fragile, and being able to blow up a land and then cascade into a Living End and then have a 2/2 or blow up another land, you can leave a control deck basically helpless.
Exactly, and that's something I think that a lot of players who don't play Living End kind of underestimate about the deck, is the versatility of the deck. A lot of people kind of see it as a combo deck, which it is, but they think, okay, well if I just counter the Living End then I'm fine. And that's not really the case with this deck. It is more like a control deck where your control targets are the lands. So a lot of the time you'll win a game just because they don't get to cast anything. So let's just quick look at the sideboard. Right now I'm running the 2 Fairy Macabres I mentioned earlier, 2 Shriek Maws. It was previously 4, but I find that this deck has such an easy time against creature decks that it's not super necessary. It's good against things like Hate Bears. 4 Ingot Chewers, just because the artifact Graveyard Hate in Modern is pretty oppressive against us. I put 2 Avalanche Riders back into the sideboard for against things like Tron, where it's just 100% required to nail those Tron lands. I find once Tron gets up to their full Tron lands, it's really hard to beat the type of creatures. They're the only deck playing bigger creatures than we are. Let's put it that way. The 2 Brindle Boars for our burn matchup, and then the 3 Ricochet Traps because they are the most fun you can have out of the sideboard with this deck ever.
So when do you bring in the Ricochet Traps?
Ricochet Traps I usually bring in against any deck with counter spells. Sometimes you'll counter something funny like a Counterflux. You'll change the target of a Counterflux to Ricochet Trap, and then it will just fizzle, and you'll get to cast your spell. Other times you do cast it for 4. Like you can change the target of any spell. So you can change the target of a what's the 5 mana Time Walk says target player takes an extra turn. Time Warp. So you can, I think you can change the target of Time Warp. I've done that. I've done. You can even use change the target of Splinter Twin. So you can do all kinds of crazy stuff with Ricochet Trap, but it's mostly there just to counter target counterspell.
I like it.
Oh yes, hopefully we get to use it. My mana base is a little bit, I guess it's not weird. It is normal for Living End. Copperline Gorges are of course the budget version of the mana base. You can use the red-green lands that Tron uses, the Groves, which give your opponent life, which isn't really a huge deal because you're swinging for like between 17 and 30 damage when you go off. So that's not a huge deal. Copperline Gorge, the main downside is that when you get to your 5 mana, sometimes you have to play your 5th mana tapped, and that doesn't let you hard cast a Deadshot Minotaur, for instance, but that's the only downside to that. And of course, the Dryad Arbor is there just to fetch it up so that you have a target for Demonic Dread. So let's do some games.
Yeah, let's get some games in.